Hello guys, this is episode 6 of System Design 100, and today we'll be talking about CDNs. CDN is called a content. I have to write very slow because this marker is not working. Content Delivery Network is kind of a similar component as a cache that we have talked about in our last episode. So, uh, functionality wise, these two act as a same kind of a component, but there are fundamental differences which differentiate caches and CDNs. Very first difference is that caches used to sit between web servers and databases as middleware in a lot of architectures, and not even so not as middlewares, but as complement complementing the databases, so that or a lot of queries do not go to the database directly. But yeah, they somehow used to act as a middleware. But CDNs are do not act as a middleware. They sit between the user layer and the web server layer, and they more of, like, you can say, they complement the user layer. They do not technically act as a middleware in against which cache was acting as a middleware in a lot of cases, but they do not. So they're like a second is that uh, cache used to store query the database data against a query. So for whatever query which was being frequently asked by the user, the data which that query fetches was stored against that query in the cache, so that the database doesn't get hit every time. But the CDNs store what they store is static data like images, videos, uh, JavaScript components which are uh, not server side, and style sheets. So whatever data that is static, which does not have functionality, is can be stored in CDNs, and it is stored somewhere nearby user location itself. So in case of caches, what was happening? The caches are planned to store nearby the web servers. Okay, so that whenever a web server is trying to query a cache, it does not take it much time. The response time should be very slow, so that the overall performance of the application improves. Similarly, since in this case the user will be querying the CDN, so it will be stored very close to the user location. So point number 3 is, oh, now the reason why CDNs are used. We generally know a website consists of a lot of components. It's the HTML structuring, it's the JavaScript functionality, and the style sheets to make the UI beautiful, and then we have images as well as videos and a lot of other components. So a lot of these components like videos, images, and CSS and JavaScript, client-side JavaScript they're very hefty. And every time if you try to request these data from the web server in which the application is stored, it can be very time consuming, or to just go against and then fetch all of the data. In case the servers are not stored very close to the user, it could be very time consuming task for the server to send that whole data to the user. So what CDNs do is they store all of these data, all of these static data like images, videos, and all client-side JavaScript and the style sheets nearby to a server from the user. So CDN would be somewhere like this. Yeah. So whenever there is for example, there is a very frequent access of a website which has become popular. So it contains videos, images. So a lot of people are visiting that website frequently, and since due to that frequent access, web servers has to do a lot of work. They have to send same amount of images, videos, and other static data uh, every time whenever someone requests to that user through the network. So it's not very efficient. It's very time consuming. What happens is that all of the static data, images and videos, are stored in the CDN nearby. Now they act exactly similar as cache, as we talked in the earlier lecture. First, the request goes to the CDN. It will search for that particular item, image, videos in the CDN. If it will not find, really sorry, I'm not sure what this sound is. Let's get back. So yeah, the user will first user request will first go to the CDN. It will look for the static content like images, JSON, CSS, and everything in the CDN itself. If it will find the data here itself, instead of going all the way to the web servers wherever they are stored through the network, they will simply pull the static images from CDN itself. The remaining functionality they can pull from the web servers because they are the functional part is not very large in size, and then you'll be able to view your website. In case they do not find the static data here, they will simply route that CDNs will simply route that request to web servers. They will pull all the static contents from the web servers and they will store it in the CDN. Now, in terms of storage, if you remember, we talked about caches. Caches were in-memory storages, and generally we wanted caches to be very fast since we were dealing with database queries against the data inside databases. Okay, so and database query, if you know, right, database queries and the data set intake database is not very hefty. It's just it's just strings and very small amount of data. So in memory caches were good because they were fast enough. They were very fast, and we did not require very huge amount of storages to act as caches. But CDNs cannot be memory caches because CDNs store very huge amount of data. They store very large video files, images files. So they are not in memory storage. They are general SSDs and SSD kind of storage. Instead, now to compensate for the performance loss against the memory storage and the SSD, it is stored very close to the user so that the response time is to the compensated against the slowness of SSDs and hard disk drives. So this is CDN. Now the things that we talked about, right? The things we should keep in mind when using caches, right? Eviction policies and expiration time, all of them apply almost same in terms of CDN. The point again, I will reiterate the point that CDNs are not very tightly coupled components as caches. These are loosely coupled. If CDN fails, that's not an issue. The functionality of application will not be affected. It's just the load time will increase a bit. And similarly, CDNs can be a third party provider, and you can also implement your own CDN. There are a lot of third party providers. You might have heard of Akamai and Amazon's CloudFront. These are very famous CDNs. So CDNs are present across the globe. These providers are present across the globe, and you can buy their service, and you can just give your data to the service. It will decide by itself, depending upon the user location, to where to store that data and when to fetch that data and when to give it to the user. So this is CDN again. But whenever CDN pulls any images or any static files from the servers, it gives it something called a time to live, called TTL, and the item stays inside the CDN servers until this TTL expires. So yeah, that's what basically CDNs are. So normally, if I talk about the costs associated with CDNs is very different across different providers. You are either charged with the data coming inside the CDN and the going outside of the CDN, or the data storage the amount of storage it is consuming in the CDN servers. So there is very different kind of different kind of costing and pricing techniques different providers use for their CDNs. So CDNs are much more programmable as compared to caches, because caches have their own algorithms and own data structures working inside of in which we cannot do much if we're opting for a third party. So we can just choose the type of data storage we can have, and we do not have much control over it. But in CDNs where we have a lot of control, we can directly control the type of data that resides inside CDN with the use of APIs. And if we do not want some kind of data that got stored in the CDN, we can simply remove it using API calls and things like that. So yeah, that's what CDN is, and I think we're done. I don't think there is anything else to cover in CDNs. Thank you very much.